Hi everyone. Thanks for taking the time to view my vlog this week. As I reviewed the readings and watched the videos pertaining to the course, I have to say I felt a bit overwhelmed. I felt that perhaps it was because I'd just come off the launch of a new semester like many of you. So I was definitely in overload mode then. But also I think that I felt that the Michael Fullan concept of integrating technology, pedagogy, and change knowledge was perhaps a bit too simple a solution to where the future of education has to go. I think it's an element of it. I think though that it's missing a lot. As I broke down each individual point, I could see the strengths in this argument, but I also felt that they were made in isolation of some very key factors. Certainly the role of family, the role of community, politics, budget, things like that were missing out of the argument. Now we're only 2 chapters in, so perhaps there's more on that later, but I did feel that it was a bit in isolation, this concept. Also a big concern I have, and something that I've seen in not just the industry I came from, but in others, is the fact that we are sometimes in blind pursuit of technology. And what I mean for that is that we chase technology for the sake of new and the sake of different quite often, without really fully understanding the true benefit of what we're trying to implement. And then I think the other area that we have to look out for is using technology as a scapegoat, using technology as the reason why something is happening, and not looking at the individuals behind the tools themselves or the individuals who are using the tools. So we as individuals, educators, people out in society and in various companies, we're in a constant battle to not only get into the game of where technology is currently, but then we have to keep up with it once we find ourselves there. And so that is the chase that I'm referring to. I believe also that we have a concern around relying on technology too much. A piece of technology, a piece of software as a solution to everything, and that we should automatically replace what we've done in the past with technology because it supposedly is going to be better or more efficient or whatever. I would like to point out that the technology that we have today comes on the backs of the education system of the past. Okay, so the people who came up with the innovative ideas and the solutions that we're seeing today, all of the people who have gone through the school system that we are now saying is not quite right. So I just think we should keep some of that in perspective. The Marshall McLuhan quote that Fullan included, it says a lot. We shape our tools and then they shape us. Well, technology, it's not a singular tool, but we're definitely letting it shape us. It's not a singular direction, it's not a singular pursuit. It is an all-encompassing reflection on humanity and our pursuit of survival. And with new technology, we dominate. We can dominate through commerce, we can dominate through communication and community, we can influence politics, religion, family. Like there's so much that can happen in relation, but it is really a reflection of us and a reflection of our desires. And I would say the current state of social media says that more than anything, because it is our inability, I think, to control or to temper those desires, which is what's getting us into trouble. Fullan does caution that we must constantly work on the matter of how to work with machines and not against them, and not in ignorance of them, and I think that's what's very important. We have to have our eyes open. That's also the thought behind the 5 key concepts of media literacy that Stacy Goodman writes about. All media is constructed. It shapes our perception of reality. It targets an audience. It comes with commercial implications, and it embeds a point of view. And this is something that our students really know, and this is something that we as educators really, really need to pay attention to. I would argue that this is true of all technology as well. After all, most of the technology that we develop for commercial gain. We do it to be more efficient, to save money. We do it to entertain ourselves in a new and a different way. But always there tends to be a commercial element, a money-making element behind a lot of what we see and do. Fullan writes also of the need for teachers to embrace technology and change that inevitably comes with it. I do agree with this as a singular point. May not sound quite like it the way I'm presenting things today, but I do really believe we need to embrace change. We should never stagnate. We should never hold on to something for the sake of how it was done in the past. I also feel, though, that we should not change for the sake of change itself and for the sake of newness. My fear of what Fullen proposes is that somehow we're going to lose what the past education system was doing right. Elements of teaching that worked and still work. I worry that in an effort to combat the effects of mass education that was modeled after the industrial age, that we're trying to leave that sort of one-size-fits-all fashion, which wasn't really working, but now we're going and abandoning that conformity and looking at an a la carte model of individualized delivery of education. And I'm not sure that's going to work either. Don't get me wrong, I do believe that we need to look at the individual more than we have. And a theory such as 20 minutes of time targeted to an individual student can have a positive impact is one that I can get behind. I have to believe that and I do believe that many teachers have been doing this and continue to do this and will always do this. We all have favorite teachers. We all have teachers who have been very impactful to us because of the time spent. But there are those who fall through the cracks, and so I do think a concentrated period of time to look at an individual and what they need is very important. All students should have that experience of having someone who believes in them and who can help guide them to where they want to go. But connecting with a student doesn't necessarily mean that, or feeling that we need to connect more with a student doesn't necessarily mean that the whole system needs to be abandoned. So I was struck by a comment that Fullen made of creative students are harder to teach in today's pedagogy, and I think he was alluding to the fact that there's some boredom and some conformity that creative students have a hard time with. And it's interesting because I find that what's happened recently is that we've actually moved away from some of the things that we've done in school to help stimulate creativity, and I find that might be more detrimental to our students than the boredom of the past. But he's implying that with new pedagogy, technology, and change, students would be better able to create and problem solve. He cited Tony Wagner's book, Creating Innovators, and the teacher's role in helping students find purpose and passion. What I worry about is a generation of students who might be losing sight of the needs of others because they're focused too much on the needs of themselves, their own needs and their own desires. And I worry as educators if we might lose sight of the strength of community. I worry that we're too quick to look to technology for our solutions, and our students might be losing the ability to create and to problem solve without it. So I strongly believe in the fact that we need to make sure that students understand how to be creative and to problem solve first without technology, and then move and use technology as a tool. In his TED Talk, Where Good Ideas Come From, Stephen Johnson talks about what he calls the slow hunch, and that is the networking of ideas that feed off each other before forming as a singular innovative thought. He referenced the physical space where ideas come from, using as an example the original coffee house in England as the beginning of the Enlightenment age, partly because it was also the beginning of the introduction to caffeine. But it was a place where people came together and shared ideas. And he promotes the use of, and this could be controversial, but I understand it, that the use of intellectual property of others in the creation of innovative ideas. In other words, using what somebody else has developed and taking it somewhere further. He refers to the concept of connecting ideas rather than protecting ideas, and we definitely are in an environment, I think, where we protect our ideas, and a big part of it is because we can monetize those ideas and we protect that money. But we have an opportunity here. Bringing people together is what schools do. Like, we put 25 to 30 students together in a room every single day. According to what he's proclaiming, then this should be one of the most creative spaces on the planet. But it isn't always, and I think that's because it is when students are very young, and we've talked about this before, but I think that we have made students conform to rules which inhibit that creativity, and we kind of work it out of them the farther they go along in school. And if you look at the chart that was included in Fullen's book, We look at the boredom factor that comes into play, and how students are very excited to be in school, and then it dips down from there. And I think part of that is, of course, that we've made them conform too much. We've imposed structure not only around how students sit and behave and how they should perform, but we've also restricted topics to only what we see as valuable, what society has deemed as valuable. And I think that's where we've run into a big problem. And that's the formula that's no longer working. Yet components of education are still working. So this debate will continue. We definitely need to embrace change. We do need to embrace technology. But I am concerned that we might pendulum swing a bit too far ourselves and lose what some of the true benefits of the school environment have been and could continue to be. Within education as leaders, we definitely are also responsible for empowering our fellow educators and making sure that we do embrace and learn from and teach with technology. So thank you very much for giving me an opportunity to express some of my thoughts today in relation to this topic, and I look forward to looking at some of your vlogs and continuing this discussion as we pursue this course for the rest of the semester. Thank you.